Hey guys, how's it going? Firebox here. We are going to be doing episode 2 of my Zero to Hero Cleric series where I go from level 1 to 15 trying to build the absolute best kit that I can, which will include gold gear as well. If you missed episode 1, I will have the link in the description below. With the intro out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. Now that we're level 7, I am going to have access to Advanced Healer alongside my Blunt Weapon Mastery. These are both very good perks that are going to help us in our PvP fights. I also got a club last episode, which is probably the best Cleric one-handed weapon. If you are wondering whether you want to use the Flange Mace, the Morning Star, I would just recommend using the club. The Quarterstaff is a decent alternative as well, but if you're looking to get either decent PDR with the shield, or you want to just be able to block attacks from mobs or other players, I would really recommend giving the club a try. It's a fan favorite of mine personally. After a few minutes of looting some chests, mobs, etc., still trying to get that level 10 for our next perk, I did find ourselves a fighter with a crossbow. Now here's a tip that I can give you. It didn't work out in this fight specifically, but you can hold Holy Strike in a doorway, and if the other person becomes impatient and they push you, it's pretty easy to hit somebody in that very small space. With Holy Strike, it might as well be a guaranteed hit. Also, something to keep in mind, when somebody's trying to hit you with a crossbow, try to always be looking down, jumping. Try to make yourself as hard to hit as possible, especially hard to hit headshot-wise. Protection will save you from getting hit with headshots, but it's still something to keep in mind just to try to protect yourself. Also, this guy tries to go invisible. We end up seeing him, so we hit him with the Holy Strike, and the protection ability is going to let you pretty much face trade anybody that W keys you. From my personal experience, the threshold that seems to start getting really good for the protection ability is around 16 to 25%. This is going to give you 66 to 75% with that protection up, which effectively is going to give you between 3 and 4 times effective HP. So, for example, if you have 100 HP and you hit your protection ability and you hit 66% total, instead of 100 HP, you would technically have 300 health based on the physical damage of other players. I know some people get a little bit confused by this, but it's just something to keep in mind. The skill just gets exponentially better the more armor that you personally have. So my goal as Cleric is to make myself as fast as possible while also being able to still have a decent amount of armor. Looking at this guy's gear, he does fortunately have some rings for us and Francisca's. Right now, as of recording, Francisca's sell consistently for 60 to 70 gold a stack, which is not too bad considering we're in the early game. And rings, once we hit level 15 as well, we'll definitely be able to sell those for pretty good gold. Outside of that, we're just looking for any miscellaneous items that I think we will be able to sell moving forward. I did consider putting the leather cap on at this point, but as great as the vigor is, the extra speed that we're going to lose, which is about 2 speed total, I just didn't think was worth it at this time. I know it seems silly, but 2 move speed for Cleric is actually a pretty big deal. I did also find a purple Flange Mace. I highly considered just using the club, because I think the club is just a far better weapon. But it's purple quality, so the damage is a lot higher, so I did go ahead and swap that out. A little bit later, as I was looting, I did manage to find a really good pair of reinforced gloves. Not only is Vigor extremely good for a Cleric with the PDR skill, because health is going to scale better with armor, it also had an additional 2 knowledge, which is going to help us cast our spells just a little bit faster. And as Cleric, the primary stat I'm looking for isn't knowledge, but any additional that I can find on top of gear is just going to be a little bit more helpful. Between casting protection and heals in the middle of a fight and casting Holy Strike on players, it just feels really nice having a little bit more casting speed. A little bit later, I also managed to find a blue pair of loose trousers with some Fizz Power. Not only is the additional agility going to be really nice for the pants, Fizz Power is just really good for Cleric because your starting strength is so low. It makes your damage just a little bit higher, and we just dropped that pair of riveted gloves for the reinforced gloves. It makes up for that strength loss earlier. Now, we're getting towards the end of the match, and while it doesn't matter in this game specifically, I do just want to say again, because I can never say it enough, when you're getting towards the end and you're going to go to the final blue portal, always pre-buff before the match is over. You never know if a rogue is going to be sitting stealth or somebody will be in an invis spot. It is worth using the spells. You can't take them with you, so just please make sure that you pre-buff yourself just in case something like that ever were to happen. We also are going to go ahead and hit level 10, which is fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and very quickly organize our gear a little bit, and we will add our third perk, which I think I'm going to go ahead and go with Perseverance. I think it's a really good perk. Protection from Evil is great, and it's planning to be my 4th perk, but the additional -3 damage, not only is it just really good in general for things like Rogue Rupture, because of the damage over time being reduced heavily, but it's also just really good scaling-wise for the increased armor rating. I'm sitting on a pretty decent amount of gold and equipment to sell for level 15, but I do know that if I want to build a really good kit and get that golden gear to complete this challenge, that I'm going to have to go a little bit more aggressively as far as centipedes go for rings and jewelry, and maybe some more PvP. Hopefully we find some more gear players as well. The next match was pretty uneventful. I just spent the entire time opening up chests, clearing mobs, and breaking the wooden crates to try to get some additional money. I looked for players, but unfortunately we didn't see any, so I'm just going to very quickly gloss over this match, and we're just going to move on to the next one. I did at least get lucky, though. I found a Chapelle de Fur, which are really good for this build because it's going to give you additional PDR, and there's also a very minor move speed penalty because the agility is going to make up for that speed loss that the base hat will give you, but it's really just the PDR that's the big deal here. Now we're going to be sitting almost at 25% PDR, which is 75% with our PDR skill, which is really, really strong. I also figured I'd show off my base stats real quick. What I'm looking at, I am above 300 move speed, which without access to the marketplace is pretty decent. We don't have the move speed rolls that we would like on our boots or our trousers, but we're building about as fast as you can, and we also have a pretty good amount of vigor stacked as well. 115 is pretty good for Cleric. Ultimately, you're looking for speed and health for this build. As I mentioned previously, this is the point right around level 10, 11, and once you start getting better quality weapons, preferably blue or purple, this is really where you want to start farming centipedes. The loot that you're going to get from these guys is very strong. Not only can you possibly get rings and necklaces that you're going to be able to use before you get access to the marketplace, which is really nice, but you're also going to have a decent chance at getting rings if you manage to find a ring that has good stats. For example, say you find a 2 strength ring and it has maybe 2 additional physical damage. You're going to get so much profit from that it's way more worth killing these guys over chests. At this point in time, I'm getting to the point where I'm going to almost completely transition away from opening crates, opening chests, and I'm going to focus on getting the centipede kills instead. Even decent amulets can also sell for pretty good money as well. Now, I hear 2 players fighting directly above me. I am going to pre-buff myself first and foremost because I never know. If I go up top, I might not have a chance to buff myself first. This fight is also really going to highlight how good movement speed is for Cleric. Using your torch, you are able to chase down players. I have a feeling this Barb is not completely full HP, and he's also throwing Franciscas at me. So the balancing act is going to be trying to keep my Bless up because it's going to give me an additional 1.5% move speed. Protection up because I never know when he might try to turn around. And also trying to balance either A, seeing if I can get any hits off on the torch when he's trying to run because I might be faster than him. And also trying to soften him up with these Holy Strikes. Now, he's in the corner. I feel like I got him at least once with that Holy Strike, so I feel like I'm pretty confident to face trade him here. I pop up my protection skill. It gets really, really close. You can see just how important the PDR skill is in this fight. I got down to about 25% HP. Also, keep in mind that I don't have my protection from Evil perk, so his roar, making my damage reduced by 50%, is active for 2 times as long, which really just goes to show how important it is to get all of your perks as Cleric, especially once you start pushing for PvP. And considering I'm hitting about 75% PDR, there is no doubt in my mind that this guy would have dropped me if I didn't have that skill active. Now, let's go ahead and loot this guy's body. He has a fantastic pair of purple loose trousers for me, which is a huge upgrade. He also has a pair of leather gloves that I'm going to go ahead and put on. He has a tattered cloak that I'm going to grab as well. This is part of why I wanted to really push for PvP, because being able to get this gear and then potentially sell it at level 15 and then also upgrade myself is just going to help me snowball even quicker. I ran over to where I thought the Barb might have killed somebody. I did manage to find 2 rings and a pendant from this guy, so I will be able to sell those as well as some lockpicks, which are all fantastic to find. Continuing to farm some centipedes, I did find a really decent ring of survival. Any kind of ring is going to sell. Even though its resourcefulness not quite worth as much, it's still pretty good. and surgical kits will always sell for about 100 gold, which is nice. There was another barb down trying to kill the other centipede that I was trying to find. So I'm going to go ahead and fight this guy. Go ahead and pop my protection, my bless. This guy's being a little bit annoying. He keeps closing the elevator back up top, but it's okay. Ultimately, I have the protection skill, and it looks like he has a lot of armor on, which means he's going to be a little bit slow. Now, in typical barb fashion, this guy won't fight me, and you'll see just how quick my health starts to just completely disappear. But I don't know. I really don't know what this guy's doing, but this is pretty typical. Just, you know, who needs melee weapons, right? When you just grab like a million Francisca axes and just throw them at people. I am going to go ahead and loot this guy's body. He does have some rings and pendants for me, which is great. Vigilant cloak as well. Legendary one, which is really surprising. A decent pair of adventurer boots. This guy had pretty darn good gear. Pair of reinforced gloves that are pretty good quality. Ultimately, this guy was really worth killing. I'm going to get a ton of money selling this guy's loot. So this was a really big turning point, I think, for me personally in trying to snowball this character. Extra surgical kit as well. Remember, these always are going to sell for about 100 gold. Lockpicks are really good. Those sell for, I think, like 60 to 70 gold a piece. Ultimately, we're looking for gear and lockpicks, etc. We're not really looking to keep treasure because most treasure just isn't quite worth as much as the gear is going to be. We got lucky. A blue portal spawned right next to the body that we were just looting. So we're going to go ahead and get out of the game with a ton of profit. Did look at this guy that was in our game. He had a legendary quarterstaff. I really wish I had managed to fight this guy instead. The legendary quarterstaff would have been really good before level 15 to help snowball, but that's okay. We did get a lot of gear from that game. You can tell our stats are starting to get quite a bit better now. We have still around the same movement speed total, but we have additional action speed, and we're sitting at 131 total HP, which is absolutely insane. I consider putting on the other pair of cloth pants, but ultimately loose trousers are just best in slot for Cleric and really any class, so we're going to go ahead and keep those on. We're sitting at 22% base PDR before the shield out. Keep in mind the shield will not show on that PDR until you're in-game, but ultimately, I'm quite happy with how this kit has gone, especially considering we can't even trade yet. We have a really good Vigor ring, a super good Vigilant cloak, damage on the Resourcefulness ring. Honestly, it's starting to feel like this kit can't get too much better until we unlock trading at level 15. That's going to be the end of episode 2. I hope you're enjoying this series so far. It looks like this is going to end up being a 3-part series, so we'll have one final episode coming out probably within the next few days. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like. It really does help the channel. Sub for future content, and comment below what your thoughts are and if you have any suggestions for future content. And I do want to thank Barty and Kid Brutal for supporting this video alongside my other members. Thank you all. Have a great day.